Rowdy Hayden. Larry Rogers here. With me is Dale Feston, James Byer, Bob Bagley, David Smith. And we appreciate you coming in, and as we discussed, we'll have up to 5 minute opening, if you'd like. And then we'll start off with questions with the answers, two minutes thereabouts. So with that.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm Constable Rowdy Hayden. I'm your elected constable in Precinct 4. I sat here before you 4 years ago going through this similar interview. I earned your endorsement then, and I'm here to tell you today that there's not been much change in the office other than it's gotten better since the last time I visited with you. My campaign is centered around 4 core principles. I'm honored to serve the people in Precinct 4. I'm dedicated to protecting this community. I offer experienced leadership, and I'm a trusted conservative. My background in law enforcement's in my blood. It's what my dad did. Several of my children are doing it, and it's my passion. I've always, growing up, I've always knew what I wanted to do and be in law enforcement. So I had a lot of time to prepare for that before I became constable. I have currently just under 30 years experience in law enforcement, all of which is served right here in Montgomery County. I'm a graduate of Sam Houston University's Leadership Command College. And I have led the Precinct 4 Constable's Office for 11 years. And today I'm here seeking my 4th term. I'm not seeking my 4th term as something that's owed to me, because it's not. I work hard for the people of Precinct 4 every day. When you're the incumbent, every day is a job interview. And I'm proud of my record. Proud of the service that we provided and the accomplishments of my office. We're an active office. Matter of fact, we're the 4th most productive police agency by volume and arrest in the county, trailing behind 3 much larger agencies. I work within our budget to ensure that in addition to fulfilling our statutory duties of civil process, that we are able to offer additional services to the citizens in Precinct 4 to keep it a safer community. I believe this election is about experience and motivation. It's a critical time for East Montgomery County. Our rapid growth population and rapid retail growth, it makes our ability to continue our crime reduction efforts even more important. And it's crucial that we continue to elect the most qualified individuals to our local government, and I am that candidate. I have no ulterior motives here. My only agenda is to continue to serve my community, make it a safer place to live, work, and raise a family. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great. Bob, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you personally for coming. I know there's been a lot of
Controversy.
a lot of controversy in the county that the charges were brought up against you. I just want you to know that anytime that we bring in a candidate, we try to be fair across the board with anybody and everybody, and ask the questions that are necessary that for us as well as for the public. And I saw that I'm guessing that the Attorney General exonerated you from all of your...
Correct. At no time were ever any charges ever officially filed, or ever any suspensions administered.
Okay. David?
You know, a part of your constitutional responsibility are distributed court documents. You basically the law enforcement for the areas. Can you? I was out of meeting today, and Constable DeForest was talking about how the flow of paperwork goes from the courts to the constables, and he sounded like he was the center of that, it went to him, then he distributed it out to all the constables. Can you talk about, how that paperwork flows, all those court warrants and stuff like that?
Sure.
Flows from the bench, if it flows through the force, then it flows to you, then how do you measure your success? How do you know that you're actually executing those warrants?
So the civil paperwork is issued from the court, and it'll go to the clerk's office. And then from the clerk's office, they'll send it to us directly. Some of it may go to Constable DeForest's office. I think now we're getting most of ours directly from the clerk. There's other means. We can receive civil process by mail because we serve all the courts. And there might be a court that's not within Montgomery County that will mail that civil process to us, and we'll receive it that way. We're currently working on getting the county constable's office set up on an e-file system where we can actually receive that stuff electronically, receive those papers electronically when we receive them and when we send them back to the courts.
Now, are those papers only for people in Precinct 4?
Yes, for the citizens, and we serve for our precinct for the citizens in that precinct.
Okay.
And who's leading the effort to make that happen?
The
Clerk's office?
the
E-file.
e-file system. So we're doing that now, and we're just we're trying to work out with the auditor's office the means to pay when an attorney or defendant when they submit those papers through the electronic system. Will there be a credit card? Those are the stuff that we're trying to fine tune with the e-file system.
Is there a measurement that you guys use to say, I got 80% done, or I got 90% done, or
Well, I can
how do
tell
I
you-
judge your success?
I can tell you, I was at a concerned citizen meeting last night, and I gave some statistical information. Last month, we had 645 civil attempts to serve, which that means that's how many papers we went out and attempted to serve. You're not able to serve every paper you get because of various reasons. They may have moved, or they may be avoiding service. If you can't contact them by, going out and physically serving on the paper, if they're avoiding you, there's other means by publishing or that you can serve that paper.
Okay. And you had a short and sweet answer to the question on public's right to record police officials. You said, I support this right. Is that without reservations, without exceptions, anywhere, anytime, any means? Do you have any preconditions or reservations whatsoever?
I believe the public has a right to record law enforcement if they're in a public place. Now, certainly, if we're in our office doing an interview room, we will handle the recording in there. But if it's in public, that's the public's right to record our actions and what we're doing. This day and time, without the public recording, there's convenience stores, homes, there's cameras everywhere. So, we expect that we're being recorded anytime.
Okay. Please describe the concrete goals against which you want to be measured. You made, again, a nice, short, sweet statement there to make Precinct 4 a safer place to live, work, and raise a family. Well, concrete goals to me is something you can measure. So how do you measure making it a safer place to live?
Well, I can give you one example right off the bat is if you read the latest article in the Conroe Courier where DWI arrests were down.
Saw the headline.
That's a good measurement. We have a DWI task force in my office that Montgomery County was, at one time, the most deadliest county for fatality DWI accidents. So we've tried to combat that by being out there and enforcing the intoxicated driver arrest, and I think that's a good measurement by the district attorney putting out the recent statistics on that.
Okay, and that's only one aspect of crime, of course.
Correct.
Do you have comparable measurements for other dimensions?
I can tell you, we do a safe shopper program during the holiday seasons where we partner with the improvement district to provide overtime hours for the shopping areas. And I don't have the exact statistics ready yet because that program is just ending next week. But I do know that those numbers are going to be down as well.
Okay, so you keep track of all that. Okay, I'll have a follow-on question my next turn. Larry?
Back to the civil papers. You said you filed 640 or something last month. How many do you serve a year?
I don't have the annual, the 1st of January. I will have that for last year. I don't have our annual numbers.
That rate would be about 8,000 roughly.
Yeah.
If that were,
And last month was a busy month. I think we usually average 300 to 400.
And your current staff, how many deputies and so forth do you have?
I have 39 full-time deputies. That's including the command staff.
39 deputies, and then administrative staff?
Yeah, that's 39 sworn personnel.
Okay. Do you have any, what's it called?
Clerical.
Administrative, clerical, yeah.
Non-sworn.
We have 4 clerical positions in the office, and I believe we have around 12 reserve officers, which are
Reserve, that's-
non-paid officers.
Reserve, that's what I was
Correct.
trying to remember. Okay. James?
Sure, now with the size of Precinct 4, I mean, that's a lot of territory in the county. Yet, you know, we do have a sheriff's office, and one thing that we've noticed is that the 5 different constable precincts, you add them together, that's quite a large amount of deputies, sworn peace officers that are available in addition to the sheriffs. And one of the problems we have is the way the county commissioners are running their respective territories as fiefdoms. And there's no cooperation amongst them that we're aware of in terms of resources, facilities, personnel. So I guess my question is, do we really want to have that size of a staff in the constable area when you're limited pretty much to the precinct other than if you get called? When you have a sheriff's department that could probably use those same deputies more broadly.
Okay. Sheriff Henderson is a supporter of mine, and I'm going to steal his term. We're force multipliers. He says that, you know, with the constables being proactive in law enforcement, going out and actually being proactively enforcing crime, that it reduces the load from them, from the 911 calls that they have to take. So it allows us to be proactive and try to stop crimes before they occur. The sheriff's office is a great partner with us. We work hand in hand with them. We were on an auto theft investigation with them today, and we work hand in hand, and there's not enough of either one of us.
How many of your deputies actually serve papers, and do you have bailiffs that you have assigned?
I do have a full-time bailiff that serves the court. I have a civil division. The civil division handles the more technical civil, the writs, writ of attachments.
So how many are responsible for that work as opposed to patrol?
Our department is not big enough to have a sole civil division. We have a civil division that's comprised of 4, counting the bailiff, 4 deputies. The bailiff does the bailiff job. The others do the writs and the evictions and that sort of stuff. But every deputy touches some sort of civil, because with a precinct as large as ours, not everybody's home at every day during the daytime. So the guys that patrol at night, sometimes they have to take some papers because those papers have a time frame and have to be served. So it's safe to say that everybody in our department just about touches some civil process papers.
All right, thank you.
There's a lot of problems going on in the nation today, and with trying to take our guns away, with red flag laws, with sanctuary cities. Virginia's really hot on that right now, where their counties are becoming sanctuary, and Montgomery County recently became a sanctuary city, that if the feds came in, that the county law enforcement would not enforce or support or help the feds coming in to take weapons from the citizens. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel, back to the red flag laws, I feel like that's an infringement on our Second Amendment right. I'm a very pro Second Amendment. Matter of fact, years ago, Representative Toth asked me to come to Austin and testify before a bill that he was presenting that was similar to this, that would keep, excuse me, that would keep local law enforcement from having to be able to put in that situation when the government came down and said, take weapons from citizens. I was happy to support Representative Toth and saying that we would not do that.
Do you feel like the sanctuary city resolution that was passed is necessary if law enforcement officers are sworn to uphold the Constitution? That's their oath. Do we really need a sanctuary city resolution for the law enforcement officers to follow through with?
I don't think, and being in a rural area, the sanctuary city, if the county, I don't know. I don't know if the county could come in and do a sanctuary city like that versus where a local city government could.
Well, we've done it. It's been done here in the county. That was done in Commissioner's Court. So it's a done deal. We're a sanctuary county now, but is it really necessary? Is it just fluff because a peace officer is sworn to uphold the Constitution, and in doing so can't come into your house and your property and take your gun anyway by the Constitution?
Right.
So there's really no teeth in a statement, that a resolution that's brought forth. There's no teeth in that. You're not sworn to uphold that. You're just told that you're going to do this, but you already have that in the Constitution.
I agree with that.
I've heard some people talk about MS-13 gangs moving in the Roman Forest area. Could you clarify that? Or?
So what you're referring to is not actually Roman Forest. It's the back part of Roman Forest, which is not part of the city. It's King's Colony, and as far as the MS-13, our prominent gangs in East Montgomery County is the Aryan Brotherhood. We see a lot of that. We're seeing an increase in maybe the Houston gangs. MS-13, they are there. Montgomery County, the Sheriff's Department has a gang unit that actively comes out and investigates those.
I think that King's Colony is more of a cartel more than it is actually gangs, isn't it?
It would be premature for me to say that that's a cartel community, but we just made a recent arrest through our HIDA program with the Sheriff's Office of a cartel house in the city of Splendora. So
They're all over.
it would be premature for me to say that about one neighborhood.
So is King's Colony a no-go zone?
Excuse me?
Is King's Colony a no-go zone?
Explain the no-go zone.
Not safe,
You don't want to be there after dark.
right?
Well, you don't have regular patrols or anything of that nature. You don't go in without backup support and whatever.
We patrol Kings Colony regularly. Matter of fact, on New Year's Eve, we had assigned personnel in that area. New Year's Eve, we assigned personnel into the areas where we commonly get calls for gunshot in the area. So we strategically positioned our deputies in those areas to have a high visibility presence. The problem with that is two problems. Number one, you have fireworks going off that you have to distinguish from, and in order to make an arrest, you have to see it happen. You have to have probable cause and evidence to And it's just, it's a harder case to make. I've talked to Chief Carlisle with the Roman Forest Police Department, and we're actually looking into some technology that would pinpoint, some of the bigger cities have it, where it would pinpoint a gunshot in a certain area. It's very expensive, so we're looking at some grants maybe to get that, to try to combat some of these problems in those areas.
There's been a lot of houses with bullets knocked down on their roof and in their backyards coming from Kings Common.
Okay, you mentioned, or maybe I inferred from some of your comments and things you've written, that you're the 4th largest law enforcement organization in the county. Could you name the 3 larger ones?
So that, what I said was by volume and arrest.
Okay.
Our arrest numbers are number 4 in the county. The ones that are, that make more is the sheriff's office,
Right.
which they're countywide, and there are several hundred deputies.
Right.
The highway patrol, which they're countywide, and I'm pretty sure they're more than 39 people. And the Conroe Police Department, which is 100+ personnel. So we trail behind those 3 agencies in East Montgomery County, or in the county, in arrest.
Okay. Do I have a little bit of time left? You mentioned that, you have mentioned more than once in your answers that transparency is one of your goals. And you inferred a little bit ago that you keep statistics on a lot of these things. Why are those statistics not published on your website, or are they and just not readily findable, or does it take a FOIA to get those statistics?
No, every month we, I don't know that they're posted on our website, but every month we give our statistics to the local concerned citizens group, where they have a meeting every month. And that's an opportunity for us to post, those statistics that we've done last month. Like I have last month's statistics here because last night was their meeting, or not, Monday night was their meeting that we was at. So we do give those statistics to the community.
Okay, would you consider posting them on your website?
That's a great idea. I would.
Okay, Larry.
Your 30 years as a law enforcement, 11 years as the current constable. What were the 19 years?
So I started my career when I was 19 years old with the Sheriff's Department. I was working in the jail under Sheriff Joe Corley. I was a jailer working in the jail, and I moved through the ranks, and in 2009 I was elected constable.
Okay. James?
Well, you have 2 opponents. I guess this would be a good time. I'd like you to compare what you have done, plan to do, actually, what you plan to do and what we can expect from you going forward, to what we can reasonably expect your opponents would do in that same position, or not do in that same position.
Yeah, we're going to continue moving the department forward with technology, just like e-filing that we're working on now to update that. There's over 11 years I've identified things that we're constantly improving efficiencies in the department. I've watched my opponents' interviews, and some of the stuff they say that they want to do, we're already doing. And it shows in our numbers and our arrests and our productivity.
Do you feel like they're not very well informed on the current needs of your precinct? Or are they? Based on what you've heard?
I'll let the citizens be the judge of that.
Well,
I
you
don't-
need to help them be the judge of that.
I don't want to come here and talk about, what my opponents may or may not do. I want to
Yeah.
talk about what I can do and continue to do for the precinct to make it a safer place.
Do you feel like you're better suited to do that than your opponents?
I feel like I am. I feel like I've had 11 years of experience with this department, and this department is continually to move forward in the right direction. And my next term, I'm going to continue to move it forward.
Do you feel like the voters who voted for you in the past are pleased with what they've seen from you, or have you disappointed them in some way? Or what is your assessment of their assessment of your service?
I feel like they're very pleased. We're very transparent. And we have our Facebook page. We try to put stuff on our Facebook page as quick as we can. Sometimes it'll be on the side of the road on a traffic stop, and we'll identify this is what's going on, so the people in that area can be aware. And I think if you look at the comments on those Facebook posts, you'll agree with me that the public's very happy.
Now, I will say, if I have time, there are quite a few elected officials that I know, we all know. And one thing that I expect when I support them is that if it's me or anybody else in front of them, yeah, I won't be getting any special breaks. They'll be following the law without bias. Can we expect the same from you? If it's somebody you know, or if we don't endorse you, you're going to be against us, you know, basically. Can we expect, you know, unbiased, following the law, regardless of who the person is?
Absolutely. I can give you an example where I arrested one of my cousins one time.
Okay,
You know,
good.
I grew up in East Montgomery County. I've lived there all my life. I have a lot of family and kin folks, and I had a cousin one time that was not doing right, and he went to prison over my case.
Now, if you have family you have to arrest, we would not object to your giving them a good pillow to take to jail with. That's perfectly fine.
I treat them as we do everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
A few years back, the commissioners and all their wisdom decided that constables didn't need to be using their own cars anymore, that they needed to have county cars, county vehicles. And how has that changed? I know that deputies would use their cars on duty, but they could also use them off duty. They were given a set amount, stipend per se, to be able to take care of their vehicles, and they got them taken care of mechanically and on their own. And now there is no county facility that takes care of y'all's vehicles. So the downtime and all that, how is this working? Is it working out economically? Is it working out for the betterment for the taxpayers and for being out there on the road by doing this?
Right. I think financially it's a better option for the county to provide vehicles for these deputies. And then those are some of the efficiencies we're improving. We never had to deal with having to have a fleet to work on, because the deputies own those cars. They had to work on them themselves and pay for that. Several years ago, and the sheriff's department has their own fleet maintenance. It's centrally located at the sheriff's office. All their cars get maintained there. The constables didn't have that opportunity. And I'm not sure how they do it in other precincts, but in Precinct 4, we worked with Commissioner Clark to, he hired on an additional mechanic at his office, and he was already working on his vehicle, so he hired an additional mechanic and took on the preventative maintenance and issues for the constable's office over there. So now, when we have a car breakdown, or if we have a scheduled preventative maintenance plan, we take that over to the commissioner's office and they serve it right there.
So Commissioner Metz followed through with that?
Commissioner Metz followed through with that, and the program's still ongoing, and it's an efficient program. The deputies can usually get their cars in pretty quick for preventive maintenance. And
what happens if they don't have a vehicle? Do they just double up, or because
So
you
we
don't
have-
have spare vehicles? Do
we
you?
do have some fleet vehicles, we call them, that if a vehicle's wrecked or if it's broke down, has a major repair, then they can get in a fleet vehicle and can use that.
You know, back to the TICO issue. Is there I read the Golden Hammer article, and I guess it was a local paper article. What document that the state issue that changed the whole perspective on this? Was there an announcement from the state that that basically said that you mistreated that? What's the underlying document that came from this?
So they issued a letter saying that there was, the TICO investigation determined that there was no wrongdoing on my part. And I was confident that it would do, that's what it would determine. We've provided y'all a copy with the letter.
What is TCO again?
The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
You said you did provide us with that?
Mhm.
I guess John.
John-
That was a letter from the
John-
state?
John should have that.
Okay. Letter from the state?
Yeah,
Correct.
I got it, email.
Yeah, I didn't get one from the state, all I got was the one from you, I think.
Yeah, we provided that. John, I'm sure, is the one that got the letter.
Okay. One of my favorite topics, or least favorite. I've never been affected by it, but it's one of those things that you read about often enough, and just seems like civil asset forfeiture. How does that work in the Precinct 4 Constable's office? What guidelines do you follow to make sure the right thing is done? And what are those guidelines in broad form?
Okay, so the district attorney's office is the spearhead in civil asset forfeiture. They have guidelines in place that we have to follow during that. And in our office, if we can take the means away from a criminal to keep them from committing criminal acts on our citizens, that's where we use civil asset forfeiture. I'll give you an example. If someone's if someone's convicted of DWI and they've gotten one after another and it reaches a felony status and they're still committing that DWI when they get out on probation, then the district attorney's office has the means to seize their vehicle if that's what's going to keep them from getting DWI. They may not be able to keep them in prison long enough or keep them locked up, but they'll seize their means to commit another crime. We see civil asset forfeiture and drug dealing. The cartel incident we talked about earlier, that's a prime example for civil asset forfeiture. The DA's office has to prove that they used funds illegally, gained funds through drug transfers to buy that property, and the county will seize that property. And so you're not aware of any situations where property has been seized before there's a conviction? I'm not aware of that. Okay. I've read, not for Montgomery County, but other places where that seems to happen. I'm pretty sure that it's two different, it's a criminal case and a civil case. And I'm sure that the civil case has to be disposed of before they can pursue the civil asset forfeiture in Montgomery County. Thank you.
I guess on the books, the constable's office is responsible for serving civil papers. And then, of course, your law enforcement. Can you give us an idea of percentage-wise how much time is spent on civil versus law enforcement?
I don't have a percentage to give you on that. I know that, it varies. When school is in session, the civil papers we get more. When, it just depends on evictions, if, I guess if the economy's bad, we get more evictions. So, on a month-to-month basis, no, I can't tell you. I can tell you that, to serve, if you have 300 to 600 papers, that's at least how many times a deputy has to go out and, make that attempt. If I have a paper on you, I'm going to make multiple attempts to try to serve you.
Right.
Now, I can't make all the attempts at the same time. I may have to come back at night and make an attempt. That's why our night shift comes in and has to serve some civil papers.
Your night shift, is that a 24-hour, in other words?
Yeah, we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week department.
Okay. James?
You're not doing serving papers after 9 o'clock though, correct?
We don't serve papers after a certain time period at night.
After sundown or after it's dark?
When it's 10 o'clock
Right.
is our cutoff time. So, those night shift, when sometimes we have to have a night attempt,
Right.
we will do it before then.
Gotcha, thank you.
Just maybe a quick one. You mentioned on the DUI that the civil asset forfeiture might be used to seize the car to prevent that person from driving drunk again. Is that done after the conviction or just when they're arrested for
No,
DUI?
it would have to be after their, it's a two-part, the criminal case and the civil case. The civil case can't proceed until the criminal case is disposed of.
Okay, all right. I'm going to give you a scenario and get your opinion on how it should be properly handled. Let's say there's a 34-year-old man picks up a young woman to take her out of town. The father looks out the window and sees this happening. So the father gets in his car, chases them down, and at a stoplight, he gets out. He's like an uber taekwondo black belt guy, goes up, kicks out the headlight, and 34-year-old man is for good reason deathly afraid of that father. And with the light changes, pulls directly into a constable's area and gets out and runs to the constables to protect him. And let's say that the father comes up and the father says, I'm not leaving without my daughter. And the constable goes over and talks to the young lady, and he comes back and says, well, your daughter's 17, so she can leave if she wants. And so the father says, I'm not leaving without her, so they arrest him. Respectfully, but they arrest him. So my question to you is, what's the proper way to handle that situation?
So, we would investigate both sides of the issue. Is the 34-year-old man the stepdad? Is the 34-year-old
No,
man
his boyfriend. Sorry.
of a 17-year-old?
Yes.
So, we would have to follow the law. And
Which is?
if she's 17, she has a right to make her own decisions.
Well, now, we're not lawyers, but on that particular issue, it turned out 17 is the age of consent for sex. But in Texas law, you're under your parents' custody until you either graduate from high school and turn 18, or if you haven't graduated from high school, you're still in school, you could be 19, you're still under your parents' custody. So in that particular scenario, they were wrong,
Well, I'm assuming that
according to the judge later.
she could be homeschooled, she could be private school, she could be out of school. So there's different things that we would have to investigate to make that decision.
Right. Okay, thank you. You would have taken him to jail too. Right.
The father?
Yeah, the father. He wasn't going to leave without the daughter, so you would have arrested him as well.
Well, I don't know that if he committed a crime, was he going to fight somebody?
Oh yeah, he was going to
Well,
do damage to that 34-year-old man. He was a business partner of mine.
well,
I would have done damage to the 34-year-old.
I'd have to follow the law.
And then go to jail.
If he committed a crime, we would have.
Well, he didn't fight the police. It went to court. The court found in the father's favor because of the age issue, and the judge, I don't think, liked the 34-year-old either.
We have a Internet Crimes Against Children division in our office, so we deal with a lot of similar stuff,
Right.
where she's considered an adult in that aspect, but
Well, consent for sex, that's true, but custody, that's not true.
right, unless she's married or,
That's true.
yeah. So there's
There are
different
other
things
circ-
we would have to determine before we made that decision.
Totally agree.
So are you planning on growing the department?
Well, I can tell you that, we created a traffic and DWI division in October, and that's a 3-deputy unit. And since October, I think their arrest for DWI is around 100. So my plan I'll just give you an example. My plan for that would be to visit with the DA and see if we're making a dent, which obviously we may have been, or do we need to continue to fight that? We created that division because of the stats in Montgomery County that showed Montgomery County was one of the deadliest counties in the state for fatality DWI wrecks. So it was important for us to try to do something in our precinct to combat that.
So with more people, more vehicles, comes, you're already crowded in your facility. You've got little closets for people to work out of. So are you gonna go to commissioners and ask for a larger facility, or you can't continue to grow without growing your facility?
So we have, our detective division is housed at the improvement district office and an office space there, which alleviated a lot of our congestion.
Are
But,
are they providing that for free for you, or we paid for it?
At a reduced rate.
Okay.
But to answer your question, the county is, I think the county's purchased some new property in East Monroe County with a building on it. So they're fixing to adjust, and the commissioner needs to be probably for spearfronting this, but there's works right now to increase space within the courthouse.
Are they talking about renovating the animal shelter and giving that to you?
I don't know about that.
So, back to the staff, you got 39 plus four administrative personnel that are on payroll.
Clerks.
And do you provide any service to an ISD or a, MUD, or do you have some reimbursement services that you provide, either to an ISD or MUD or?
I don't know,
housing
not
care?
reimbursement services, but I can tell you that we work closely with the ISDs. New Caney ISD is pretty well staffed. They have a larger department. So they pretty much handle everything that they need if.
New Caney ISD.
New Caney ISD Police Department,
Police
yes. Now, on the first week of school, we always call and offer to send additional help for traffic control. Splendora is a little bit smaller in their apartment. Right now, they're shorthanded. The week before they got off for the Christmas break, I assigned a deputy to them because they were, I think they're maybe a 5-person department, and they were short 2 people. So they didn't have enough personnel to cover the schools that need to be covered. So for a week, we assigned a deputy to them. We also, in the past, we've sent our drug dogs up there to do drug enforcement stuff that they've requested for. So anytime they've asked for assistance.
But you don't have a contract with?
We don't have any school resource
School
officers.
resources.
No.
How many canines do you have?
We have 3.
Huh.
We have 3. We just retired one for some medical problems, and we had a citizen come forward and offer to buy a replacement. So we're going to replace him and the training at no cost to the county.
Nice.
So, I'm looking at the budgets, and I'm a novice, but it looks like from 17 to 18, you had a 11 head count increase, you had 26 people, what it said, you went to 37.
From 17 to 18?
Yeah, at least the summary I saw, but that could be erroneous,
No,
that's not right, okay.
that's in a 1-year time.
Yeah, 1 year time frame, 26, 37, 39.
We've averaged 1 to 2 year deputies, per budget year that we've been able to increase.
It could be a
personnel.
budget shuffling deal,
Hmm.
I'll look again.
I think one of the things that you were looking for is, do you have any contracts, not within the school districts, but you do for communities?
We do. We have one contract right now with Riverwalk subdivision, which they fully fund 100%. Through their maintenance fees. They pay for one deputy, they pay for his car, for his fuel. And in return, he is assigned to that neighborhood 40 hours a week. He works his 40 hours a week in there. We just recently partnered with the Improvement District and a local MUD district to provide security services at the industrial park, where the Improvement District, I know you know, but the Improvement District has an industrial park where they put businesses and they build businesses, and it's kind of in a rural area, and they were having some problems out there, so they contracted with us to hire 2 deputies that will they'll work their 40 hours a week in those neighborhoods.
Okay, red flag laws, also one of the favorites that's all over the country. You said, "I will not sit idly by while bureaucrats in Washington try to diminish this right." What can you, as a county constable, do about the bureaucrats in Washington? What did you mean when you said, "I'll not sit idly by"?
Well, let's see if I can find where you're at on
It's about the third question down from the list of
What's your timer saying?
organizations you've contributed to, et cetera.
that. So, you know, what I meant by that
45
is,
minutes.
I'm very pro Second Amendment.
We got 15 minutes.
And, you know, I believe that red flag laws are in direct violation of our Constitution. And so when I stood with Representative Toth to say that, you know, we wouldn't let the federal government come in and dictate to us, you know, to what not to do with our Second Amendment, that's what I meant by that.
Okay. And Governor Perry, in response to recent mass shootings, has issued 8, I forget what the correct term is, I'll call them edicts, 8 orders. What is your opinion upon those things that Governor Perry has levied, or not Governor Perry, I beg your pardon, Governor Abbott has levied on the the state, and have any of those, have you seen any effect on your department, your duties as a result of those?
I'm not familiar with every one of them. The one I am familiar with is, it's House Bill 10, I think, something, but it's where school districts have to provide some mental health evaluations. I'm familiar with that one, but I'm not familiar with the ones you're referring to.
Okay, so it had no direct effect on your agency?
Correct.
Okay, Larry?
You got a quick one?
Sure. Has your department ever had to do any work with Child Protective Services?
We have.
What is your impression of their respect or not of parental rights in given situations? Do they err in one direction or the other?
Well, our level of dealing with Child Protective Services is on more of a street level during the initial phases of a child abuse or something like that.
Okay.
Where we may have a parent in custody and there's no other family member available to
Sure.
get that child, well, we'll have to call Child Protective Services. Now, I think what you're referring to is, you know, kind of later on down the line in the court system of what they're doing.
Right.
And we do have, sometimes we are issued writ of possessions or writ of attachment for a child in a custody matter that we have to go out and take a child from one parent and give to the other to enforce the court order.
So, but you're doing that, not CPS, correct? In other words, you go just with the writ, or does a Child Protective Service person
No,
go with you?
It comes from a judge.
Right, so that's really independent of the Child Protective Services, right?
Right.
Yeah, those are bad situations.
Very bad.
Yeah. Thank you.
One last question.
So you brought up, y'all have 3 dogs, and you said you go in if the school asks you to. Are you willing to go in without them asking and just do spot drug checks of the lockers with the dogs?
We certainly would be willing to go in, but we want to work together with that agency.
Granted, but you don't have to have their permission.
No, we wouldn't have to have their permission to do it, but we would want to work with, at the minimum, the school administration to do that.
When a lot of times, as you know, when something is scheduled, then lockers are cleaned out and things are disposed of before you get there, because they know you're coming.
Yeah.
So it's spot checks for drugs, just like you do for employees.
I visited with the interim police chief at Splendor. They have a dog now that they're not utilizing. I don't know for what reasons, maybe health or whatever, but they've contacted us recently and asked if we would be able to provide that service, and we would.
Good. Okay.
All right. You can have up to 5 minutes for closing if you so choose.
So, couple things I wanted to talk to y'all about that I was hoping you would ask, but, you know, Bob's from East Montgomery County. He knows that a lot of our arrests are for drugs, and they're not always drug dealers. A lot of drug users. And the problem with that is these drug users, they don't have means to go get help if they don't have money. So we have a program we're just about ready to launch through our office. It's called Constable 180. It's people that's turned their life around 180. They went from drugs to no drugs. And we're working with 3 nonprofits in our precinct that'll give them literature. Just briefly telling you, when they come in, they're arrested for drugs. They're usually on drugs. We have some signage in our booking area that they can see and get a visual. And then we have pamphlets that we're going to put in their property, and the sheriff's going to allow them to keep it in their property. So a day later or 2 days later, when they bond out and they're sober, they can see it again. And we're hoping in our mind that if they thought about it then, they see it when they're sober, that they'll reach out to one of these 3 agencies and get some help. So it's not always about just putting people in jail. Sometimes you got to get these people help. And this is a way that our department can offer some help to try to reduce the amount of drug arrests in East Montgomery County. So we're excited about that. I hope y'all will be looking for us to release that shortly. Yeah, I'm the right candidate for this office. I'm the right candidate for the Republican Party and for the citizens in Precinct 4. And I'm confident over the last 11 years that I've shown the people that I'm not just a politician that shows up during election year. Bob sees me at events all throughout the year. I try to be there for the citizens. I try to be open and accessible. I show up daily in our community, whether it be for Commissioner's Court, advocating for our precinct, day-to-day fighting crime on the streets. We take our concerns to Austin, like I said, with our Representative Toth. I'm not just work here, I'm a member of this community. I'm vested here, I have a vested interest. This is my home. This is where I grew up. This is where my wife Jennifer and I raised our boys. I'm honored that my 3 boys have stayed in this community. We're able to now watch our granddaughter be raised here. My family comes from a family of service. My 3 boys have all dedicated their lives to service through the military, law enforcement, and the fire service. And I think this is Precinct 4 is a great place to live. And I'm committed. I'm a committed conservative, and I have the experience this office requires. And I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to continuing to lead the Precinct 4 Constable's office and serve the citizens in East Montgomery County.
Thank you.